The phone rang in the quiet dormitory at Ludgrove School on that August night in 1997. 10-year-old Prince William was reading a book about adventure stories when the headmaster knocked on his door. The man's face looked serious and sad. William knew something terrible had happened even before anyone said a word. His father, Prince Charles, was on the phone. William could hear his voice shaking as he spoke. The words came slowly and carefully. There had been an accident in Paris. His mother, Princess Diana, was in the hospital. Then came the words that would change everything forever. She was gone. She would never come home again. William held the phone with both hands. He felt like the whole world had stopped moving. His little brother Harry was sleeping in the bed next to him. Harry looked so peaceful and happy in his dreams. William wondered how he would tell Harry that their mother would never tuck them into bed again, or sing them songs, or take them on secret trips to McDonald's. The headmaster sat down next to William and put his hand on his shoulder. William wanted to cry, but he couldn't. The tears felt stuck inside his chest like a heavy stone. He kept thinking about the last time he saw his mother. She had hugged him so tight and promised to call him every day while she was away. She had kept that promise until today. William walked to the window and looked out at the dark school grounds. Other boys were sleeping safely in their beds with their mothers still alive in the world. He felt completely alone, even though people were trying to help him. The headmaster asked if he wanted to call anyone or if he needed anything. William just shook his head. What he needed was his mother, and nobody could bring her back. That night, William lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling. Harry was still sleeping peacefully. William listened to his brother's quiet breathing and made a decision that would shape the rest of his life. He would protect Harry from this pain as much as he could. It would be strong for both of them. His mother had always told him that big brothers take care of their little brothers. Now, he would have to do it without her help. When morning came, William woke up Harry gently. Harry was excited to start the new day until he saw William's face. William sat on the edge of Harry's bed and took his hand. He told Harry that their mother had been in an accident and that she was now with the angels in heaven. Harry didn't understand at first. He asked when she was coming back. William's heart broke as he explained that she wouldn't be coming back, but that she would always love them and watch over them. Harry started crying then. Big tears rolled down his little face as he called for his mummy. William held his brother tight and let Harry cry into his shoulder. William's own tears wanted to come, but he pushed them down. Harry needed him to be strong right now. There would be time for William to cry later when Harry couldn't see him. The car came to take them to Balmoral Castle in Scotland, where their father and grandparents were waiting. During the long drive, Harry asked many questions. Why did the accident happen? Would their mother hurt in heaven? Would she still be able to hear them if they talked to her? William answered each question as best he could, even though he had the same questions himself, and no one had given him the answers. At Balmoral Castle, their grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, was waiting at the door. She hugged both boys, and William could see that she had been crying too. This made everything feel more real and more scary. If even the Queen was sad, then this really was as terrible as it seemed. Their grandfather, Prince Philip, put his hands on their shoulders and told them they were brave boys and their mother would be proud of them. Prince Charles looked older than William remembered. His eyes were red and he seemed lost and confused. When he hugged William, he held on for a very long time. William could feel his father shaking and realized that grown-ups didn't know how to handle this either. This made William feel even more responsible for taking care of Harry that first night at Balmoral. William couldn't sleep again. He could hear Harry crying quietly in the next bed. William got up and climbed into bed with his brother, told Harry stories about their mother's adventures and all the fun things they had done together. He made Harry laugh by doing silly voices and acting out the funny parts. This became their new bedtime routine. Every night, William would save his own sadness for later and focus on helping Harry feel better. He would tell jokes and make up games and promise Harry that everything would be okay, even though William wasn't sure himself. After Harry fell asleep, William would lie awake thinking about his mother and feeling the heavy weight of being the big brother who had to be strong for everyone. The days that followed were filled with serious conversations and preparations for the funeral. William and Harry had to learn how to walk behind their mother's coffin in front of millions of people. They practiced walking slowly and keeping their heads up. William held Harry's hand during these rehearsals and whispered encouraging words. To him, people kept telling William how brave he was and how proud his mother would be. But William didn't feel brave. He felt scared and angry and confused. He missed his mother's laugh and her hugs, and the way she would ruffle his hair when she was proud of him. He missed their secret conversations and the way she understood him better than anyone else in the world. The night before the funeral, William sat alone in his room at Kensington Palace. This was the house where he had lived with his mother and brother. Everything still smelled like her perfume and looked exactly the way she had left it. William touched her things and tried to memorize every detail so he would never forget her. He found a letter his mother had written. To him, before she left for Paris, she told him how much she loved him and how proud she was to be his mother. She reminded him to always be kind and to take care of Harry. She signed it with kisses and drew a little heart next to his name. Ouch. William folded the letter carefully and put it in his pocket. He would carry it with him to the funeral tomorrow and keep it forever. The morning of the funeral arrived with gray clouds covering London. William woke up early and looked out the window at the crowds of people already gathering in the streets. Millions of people had come to say goodbye to his mother. He felt overwhelmed by how many people loved her and how many people were crying for her just like he was. William put on his black suit and tie, with shaking hands. Harry came into his room looking small and scared in his own black clothes. Harry asked William if their mother would be able to see them today. William knelt down to Harry's level and told him that she would be watching from heaven and that she would be so proud of how brave they were being. The walk to Westminster Abbey felt like the longest walk of William's life. He held Harry's hand tightly as they followed their mother's coffin through the streets of London. People were throwing flowers and crying and calling out messages of love. William kept his eyes straight ahead and tried to be strong, but his heart was breaking with every step. Inside the Abbey, William sat between his father and Harry during the service. He listened to people talk about his mother and sing songs she had loved. When Elton John sang Candle in the Wind, William felt the tears finally coming. He blinked them back quickly and squeezed Harry's hand. He couldn't break down now, when so. Many people were watching, and when Harry needed him to be strong. After the funeral, they traveled to Althorpe, where his mother would be buried on a small island in the middle of a lake. This was where she had grown up and played as a little girl. William thought it was beautiful and peaceful. His mother had always loved water and quiet places where she could think. The island would be a perfect place for her to rest. At the burial, William finally let himself cry. The tears came quietly as he watched his mother's coffin being lowered into the ground. Harry was crying too, and William put his arm around his little brother. They stood together as the last goodbye was said. William whispered a promise to his mother that he would take care of Harry and make her proud. The days after the funeral were the hardest of all. The world had moved on, but William and Harry's world had stopped completely. They had to go back to school and pretend to be normal boys when nothing felt normal anymore. William's friends didn't know what to say to him. Some avoided him completely. While others stared at him with pity in their eyes, William threw himself into his schoolwork and sports to keep his mind busy. He played rugby harder than ever before and studied late into the night. His teachers were worried about him, but William insisted he was fine. He had learned to put on a brave face during the day and save his real feelings for when he was alone. At night, when his dormitory was quiet, William would take out his mother's letter and read it over and over. He would think about all the conversations they would never have and all the advice she would never be able to give him. He worried about forgetting her voice or the way she laughed. He started writing down every memory he could think of, so he would never lose them. Harry struggled more openly with their mother's death. He had nightmares and trouble eating and cried easily during the day. William became like a second father to Harry during this time. He would sit with Harry during his nightmares and help him with his homework, and listen to all his worries and fears about growing up without their mother. William made a secret, promise to himself during those difficult months. He would never let Harry feel alone or unloved. He would make sure Harry knew how special and important he was. William would be the big brother their mother had wanted him to be, even when it was hard and even when he was struggling with his own grief. Months passed, and slowly life began to find a new rhythm. William and Harry would visit their father on weekends and holidays. Prince Charles was trying his best to be both a mother and father to his sons, but William could see how difficult it was for him. Their father was dealing with his own grief. While trying to support his boys and handle his royal duties, during one of these visits, William overheard his father talking on the phone about him. Prince Charles was worried that William was growing up too fast and taking on too much responsibility. He was concerned that William wasn't allowing himself to be a child and grieve properly. William felt guilty for causing his father more worry. But he didn't know how to be different. The first Christmas without their mother was especially painful. The royal family tried to make it special for William and Harry, but everything felt wrong and empty. William missed his mother's excitement about Christmas morning and the way she would make even the smallest presents feel magical. He missed her Christmas cookies and her silly Christmas sweaters and the way she would sing carols while she wrapped presents. William decided that he and Harry needed their own way to remember their mother during the holidays. He suggested they write letters to her and leave them at her grave. Harry loved this idea, and they spent hours writing about everything they wanted to tell her. They wrote about school and friends and how much they missed her hugs and bedtime. Stories. The trip to Althorpe to leave their letters was emotional but also healing. William and Harry sat by their mother's grave and read their letters out loud. They told her about their lives and promised to make her proud. William felt closer to his mother in that quiet moment than he had since she died. He realized that she would always be part of them, even though she was gone. On the way back from Althorpe, Harry fell asleep in the car. William watched his little brother sleeping peacefully and felt proud of how strong Harry was becoming. Their mother would be amazed by the brave, kind boy Harry was growing into. William felt like maybe they were going to be okay after all. Spring came to England, and with it, a sense of new beginnings for William and Harry. William was now 11 years old and had grown taller over the winter months. People said he was starting to look more like his mother every day. This made William both happy and sad at the same time. He was proud to look like her, but it also reminded everyone of what they had lost. William began to notice that Harry was asking fewer questions about their mother. Sometimes Harry would go whole days without mentioning her name. William worried that Harry was forgetting her or trying to push away the memories because they were too painful. William made sure to bring up their mother in conversations and share happy memories so Harry would know it was okay to talk about her at school. William was excelling in all his subjects, but his teachers noticed he seemed older than his classmates. He was more serious and responsible than other boys his age. During breaks, he would often sit alone, reading or writing in a journal he kept hidden in his desk. His friends wanted to include him in their games, but William felt like he had grown beyond childhood games. The journal became William's secret way of talking to his mother. Every evening, he would write to her about his day and his feelings. He told her about his worries for Harry and his fears about the future. He wrote about missing her voice and her advice. Sometimes he would ask her questions and then try to imagine what she would have said back to him. One particular evening, William was writing in his journal when he heard Harry crying in his bed. William went to comfort his brother and found Harry holding a photograph of their mother. Harry said he was scared he was forgetting what her hugs felt like. William sat on Harry's bed and closed his eyes, described in detail how their mother's hugs felt warm and safe, and how she always smelled like flowers. This conversation gave William an idea. He suggested that he and Harry create a memory book about their mother. They could write down everything they remembered about her and add photographs and drawings. This way they would never forget anything important about her. Harry was excited about this project, and they began working on it together. Every weekend, the memory book became a treasure for both boys. They wrote about their mother's laugh and how she would dance around the kitchen while cooking. They remembered her terrible jokes and how she would make funny faces to cheer them up when they were sad. They drew pictures of family vacations and wrote about all the adventures they had shared together. As the months passed, William began to notice changes in his father. Prince Charles seemed less sad and more focused on building a life for his sons. He started planning special trips and activities just for the three of them. He taught William and Harry to fish and took them hiking in Scotland. these times together, helped them become closer as a family. During one of their fishing trips, Prince Charles asked William how he was really doing. William had become so good at saying he was fine that he almost said it automatically. But something about the quiet, mourning, and his father's kind eyes made William tell the truth. He admitted that he felt scared sometimes and worried about Harry and missed their mother terribly. Prince Charles listened carefully to everything William said. Then he told William something that surprised him, said that it was okay to not be strong all the time. He explained that grief was not something you get over, but something you learn to carry with you. He promised William that he didn't have to take care of everyone else all the time, and that it was okay to let others take care of him sometimes. This conversation was a turning point for William. He began to let himself be more like a normal 11-year-old boy. He joined his classmates in their games and laughed more freely. He still took care of Harry, but he also allowed himself to have fun and be silly sometimes. His teachers noticed the change and were relieved to see him acting more like other children his age. The summer brought new challenges when William and Harry had to make their first public appearance since the funeral. They were invited to a charity event that their mother had supported. William was nervous about facing the cameras and crowds again. He worried that people would stare at them and feel sorry for them. The charity event was for homeless children, and their mother had been very passionate about helping homeless people. William and Harry met children who had no homes or families, and William realized how lucky he and Harry were despite their loss. They still had a loving father and grandparents, and a safe place to live. Their mother had taught them to help people who had less than they did. Meeting these children helped William understand his mother's work in a new way. She hadn't just been famous for being a princess. She had used her fame to help people who needed it most. William began to think about how he could continue her work when he was older. He wanted to make a difference in the world just like she had. That evening after the charity event, William and Harry talked about what they had seen. Harry said he wanted to help homeless children when he grew up. William felt proud of his little brother for having such a kind heart. Her mother would be so happy to know that her sons wanted to continue her mission of helping others. The night before they returned to school, William had a dream about his mother. In the dream, she was sitting in their old garden at Kensington Palace, reading a book. She looked up and smiled at William and told him she was proud of the young man he was becoming. She said she could see that he was taking good care of Harry, and that she loved them both very much. When William woke up from the dream, he felt peaceful for the first time in months. The dream felt so real that he was convinced his mother had actually visited him. He wrote about the dream in his journal and promised his mother that he would keep making her proud. He would continue to protect Harry and help other people just like she had taught him. Starting his second year at school after his mother's death, William felt different. He was still sad sometimes and still missed her every day, but he also felt stronger. He had learned that he could survive the worst thing that could happen to him and still find reasons to smile and hope for the future. 2 years had passed since their mother's death, and William was now 12 years old. He had grown even taller, and his voice was starting to change. Harry was 9 and had become more confident and outgoing. The brothers remained close, but William noticed that Harry was beginning to develop his own personality and interests separate from their shared grief. William still kept his journal and wrote to his mother regularly, but the entries had changed. Instead of only writing about missing her, he now wrote about his hopes and dreams for the future. He told her about his good grades and his success on the rugby team. He shared his thoughts about someday becoming king and wondered what kind of leader he would be. At school, William had developed a reputation as a natural leader. Other boys looked up to him, and teachers praised his maturity and kindness. William was elected captain of his house rugby team and worked hard to encourage his teammates and help them improve their skills. He remembered how his mother had always believed in helping others reach their potential. The Christmas holidays brought a special surprise when Prince Charles announced that they would be spending part of their vacation skiing in the Alps. This would be their first family skiing trip since their mother died. William felt excited, but also nervous about creating new, happy memories. When their mother couldn't be there to share them, on the ski slopes, William discovered that he had inherited his mother's adventurous spirit. He wasn't afraid of the steep, runs and enjoyed the feeling of flying down the mountain. Harry was more cautious at first, but William encouraged him and taught him techniques their ski instructor had shown them. By the end of the week, both boys were confident skiers. One evening, while sitting by the fireplace in their ski lodge, Prince Charles talked to his sons about their mother's love of adventure. He told them stories about Diana's travels around the world and her fearless approach to trying new things. He explained that she would want them to embrace life fully and not be held back by their grief. This conversation helped William understand that moving forward and being happy didn't mean forgetting his mother or loving her less. He could honor her memory by living the kind of full, adventurous life she had always encouraged him to live. He could be sad about losing her while also being grateful for all the love and wisdom she had given him. Back at school, William began to open up more to his friends about his feelings. He had kept his emotions so private for so long that some classmates thought he didn't care about his mother's death. When William started sharing stories about her and admitting that he still missed her, his friendships became deeper and more genuine. One of William's closest friends was a boy named James, whose parents were going through a difficult divorce. James was struggling with feeling caught between his parents and didn't know who to talk to about his confusion and anger. William recognized the pain in James's eyes and began spending extra time with him, offering support and understanding, helping. James taught William something important about his own grief journey. By supporting someone else through their family crisis, William realized how much he had learned about coping with loss and change. His experience with his mother's death had given him wisdom and compassion that could help other people going through difficult times. William started volunteering with younger students at school who were having problems. He would listen to their worries and offer advice based on his own experiences. The school counselor noticed William's natural ability to connect with troubled students and asked him to help with a peer support program through this volunteer work. William discovered that talking about difficult emotions made them easier to handle. He had spent so much time keeping his feelings inside that he hadn't realized how much better it felt to share them with people who understood. He began to see his sensitivity and emotional intelligence as strengths rather than weaknesses. During the Easter holidays, William and Harry visited their mother's grave at Althorpe. They hadn't been there since Christmas, and William was surprised by how peaceful he felt walking around the island where she was buried. The spring flowers were blooming, and the lake was calm and beautiful. William felt his mother's presence strongly in this quiet place. Harry had brought a drawing he had made of their family to leave at their mother's grave. The drawing showed Diana in heaven watching over William, Harry, and their father. William was touched by Harry's artwork and realized how much his little, proud brother had grown in his understanding of death and love and family. As they sat by their mother's grave, William told Harry about some of his memories of her that he had never shared before. He described how she would sneak into their rooms at night to check on them, and how she would whisper, "I love you," even when she thought they were asleep. He remembered how she would worry about them when they were sick and stay up all night, taking care of them. Harry listened to these stories with wonder and asked William to tell him more. William realized that sharing these precious memories with Harry was a gift he could give his brother. Harry had been so young when their mother died that many of his own memories were unclear. William could help keep their mother alive for Harry through storytelling. On the drive back from Althorpe, William made a decision that would shape the rest of his relationship with Harry. He promised himself that he would always be honest with Harry about their mother and their family. He would share both the happy memories and the sad ones. He would help Harry understand their mother as a real person with strengths and weaknesses, rather than as a perfect saint. That night, William wrote in his journal about his visit to their mother's grave. He told her about Harry's beautiful drawing, and about his decision to share more memories with his brother. He promised her that he would help Harry grow up knowing how much she had loved him, and how proud she would be of the person he was becoming. William also wrote about his own growth over the past 2 years. He acknowledged that he was becoming a different person than he would have been if his mother had lived. The grief had made him more serious and responsible, but it had also made him more compassionate and understanding. He was learning to see both the pain and the gifts that came from his experience of loss. William was 13 years old when he started at Eton College. This was the same prestigious school his father had attended, and where many future kings had been educated. Leaving his familiar school and friends was difficult, but William was ready for new challenges and opportunities to grow. At Eton, William was no longer the only boy dealing with personal tragedy. Many of his new classmates came from broken homes or had experienced their own losses and difficulties. This helped William feel less alone and different. He could be himself without constantly being seen as the boy whose mother had died. William's housemaster at Eton was a kind man named Dr. Gailey, who had known Prince Charles when he was a student. Dr. Gailey understood the pressures William faced. As a future king and as a young man growing up in the public eye, he became an important mentor and father figure for William during his teenage years. In his private conversations with Dr. Gailey, William began to explore what it meant to be royal. In the modern world, he talked about his mother's approach to royal duty and how she had tried to make the monarchy more accessible and caring. William wondered how he could continue her work while also preparing for his future role as king. William excelled at Eton, both academically and in sports. He played water polo and rugby and discovered a talent for swimming. Physical activity helped William manage his emotions and gave him an outlet for the restless energy of adolescence. His teammates respected his dedication and leadership without treating him differently because of his royal status. During his second year at Eton, William began to notice changes in his relationship with Harry. Harry was now 11 and starting to assert his independence. He no longer needed William's constant protection and care. While William was proud of Harry's growing confidence, he also felt a sense of loss about their changing dynamic. This shift in their relationship forced William to examine who he was beyond being Harry's protector. For years, his identity had been so tied to taking care of his little brother that he wasn't sure who he was meant to be on his own. This period of self-discovery was both exciting and frightening for William. William started spending time alone, exploring the countryside around Eton. He would walk for hours thinking about his future and his mother's legacy. During these solitary walks, William felt closest to his mother's memory. He could almost hear her voice encouraging him to be true to himself and to use his position to help others. One afternoon, while walking by the Thames River, William met an elderly man who was feeding ducks with his grandson. The man didn't recognize William, and they struck up a conversation about life and family. The grandfather talked about losing his wife the previous year and how his grandson had helped him through his grief. This conversation reminded William that grief was something many people experienced and that he wasn't unique in having lost someone he loved deeply. The man's wisdom about finding joy again after loss helped William understand that healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant learning to carry love and sadness together in his heart. William began to reach out more to his extended family during this time, developed a closer relationship with his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, who shared stories about her own losses and challenges. She taught William about the weight of duty and responsibility, but also about finding strength in service. Two others, his grandfather, Prince Philip, became another important influence during William's teenage years. Philip taught William about resilience and determination. He helped William understand that being royal meant putting the needs of the country and Commonwealth before personal desires. Philip's tough love approach balanced the gentler guidance William received from other family members during school holidays. William started accompanying his father on official royal engagements. He observed how Prince Charles interacted with people from all walks of life and how he used his position to support important causes. William began to see royal duty not as a burden, but as an opportunity to make a positive difference in the world. William's first solo royal engagement was visiting a children's hospital that his mother had supported. Walking through the wards and meeting sick children was emotional for William, but he remembered his mother's approach of bringing joy and hope to people facing difficult times. He made jokes and played games with the children, just like Diana had done. After the hospital visit, William felt a deep connection to his mother's charitable work. He understood why she had been so passionate about helping vulnerable people. William decided that when he was older, he would focus his royal duties on continuing the causes that had been important to her, while also developing his own areas of interest. William's relationship with his father continued to deepen during his Eton years. Prince Charles made an effort to spend quality time with both his sons, despite his busy schedule. They would go fishing together and have long conversations about life and duty, and the future of the monarchy. During one of their fishing trips, Prince Charles asked William about his plans after Eton. William expressed interest in taking a gap year to do volunteer work and travel before starting university. Charles supported this idea and helped William understand that experiencing the world beyond royal circles would make him a better future king. William also began thinking seriously about university and what he wanted to study. He was interested in geography and history, but also wanted to learn about international relations and environmental issues. He saw education as a way to prepare himself for the complex challenges he would face as a future leader. The summer before his final year at Eton, William took a trip to Africa with his father. This journey was transformative for William, as he saw wildlife conservation efforts and met people working to protect endangered species. The trip sparked a lifelong passion for environmental protection that would later become one of his main royal focuses. In Africa, William felt his mother's adventurous spirit come alive in himself. He wasn't afraid of the wilderness or the physical challenges of the trip. He slept under the stars and learned about different cultures and ways of life. The experience helped William understand that the world was much bigger than the royal bubble he had grown up in. Writing in his journal after the Africa trip, William reflected on how much he had grown since his mother's death. He was no longer the scared 10-year-old boy who had felt responsible for everyone else's happiness, was becoming his own person with his own dreams and goals while still honoring his mother's memory and values. At 18 years old, William graduated from Eton as head boy with excellent grades and the respect of his teachers and classmates. He had grown into a confident young man who carried himself with dignity while remaining approachable and kind. The scared little boy who had lost his mother 11 years earlier had become someone his mother would have been incredibly proud of. Before starting university, William decided to take his gap year as planned. I wanted to experience life beyond the protective walls of royal residences and elite schools. This year would test his independence and help him understand the world he would someday serve as king. William's first stop was Chile, where he worked with Raleigh International on community development projects. He lived in basic conditions and worked alongside volunteers from around the world who didn't treat him as royalty. William loved the physical work of building schools and homes for families in need. It reminded him of his mother's hands-on approach to charity work in the remote villages of Chile. William met families who had very little but shared everything they had with visitors. Their generosity and warmth touched William deeply and reminded him of his mother's belief that people with less money were often richer in spirit and community than wealthy individuals who lived isolated lives. William's Spanish improved quickly. As he worked and lived with local families, he learned about their struggles and dreams and began to understand poverty and inequality in a personal way rather than just reading about these issues in books. This experience shaped his future approach to royal duties and charity work. After Chile, William traveled to Africa again, where he worked on wildlife conservation projects in Kenya, spent months in the wilderness learning about endangered species and the threats they faced from poaching and habitat destruction. This work became a passion that would define much of his adult life. In Kenya, William felt his mother's presence strongly. He remembered her love of adventure and her fearless approach to new experiences, standing in the vast African landscape. Watching elephants and lions, William felt connected to something bigger than himself and his royal role. He felt free and alive in a way he hadn't experienced since childhood. During quiet evenings around campfires in Kenya, William would write in his journal to his mother. He told her about the incredible animals he was seeing and the dedicated conservationists he was meeting. He promised her that he would use his position to protect these magnificent creatures and their habitats for future generations. The gap year also included time in England, where William worked on a dairy farm in the countryside. The farmer treated William like any other worker and expected him to do his share of the difficult physical labor. William loved the early mornings and the honest work of caring for animals and maintaining the farm. Working on the farm taught William about the challenges facing rural communities and small farmers, learned about the economic pressures and environmental concerns that threatened traditional ways of life. This experience gave him insight into issues that would later influence his work as a royal patron of agricultural organizations. As his gap year ended, William felt ready for the next chapter of his life at university. He had gained confidence in his ability to connect with people from all backgrounds and circumstances. He had proven to himself that he could work hard and contribute meaningfully to important causes. William chose to study at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland, where he hoped to have a more normal student experience, away from the intense media attention of London. He wanted to focus on his studies and make genuine friendships without the complications of his royal status dominating every interaction. At St. Andrews, William met Catherine Middleton, who would later become his wife and the mother of his children. Kate was studying art history and came from a middle-class family that had built a successful business. She treated William as a friend and equal, rather than as a prince, which was exactly what he needed. William's friendship with Kate developed slowly over their years at university. She understood his need for privacy and normalcy and never made him feel pressured about his royal duties or future responsibilities. Kate had also experienced loss in her own life and could relate to William's journey of growing up after tragedy. During university, William continued to write in his journal to his mother about his experiences and relationships. He told her about Kate and how special she was becoming to him. He wrote about his studies and his growing understanding of the world beyond royal circles. He shared his hopes and fears about his future role as king. In his final year at university, William reflected on the journey he had taken since his mother's death 14 years earlier. The 10-year-old boy who had made a promise to protect his brother had grown into a man who understood that true strength came from vulnerability and connection with others. William realized that his mother's greatest gift to him had not been her royal status or her fame, but her example of using privilege to serve others. She had shown him that real nobility came from compassion and service, rather than titles and ceremonies. The secret tears that William had shed as a child in his mother's garden at Kensington Palace had watered the seeds of the man he was becoming. Those tears had not been weakness, but the beginning of his strength. They had taught him that feeling deeply was not something to be ashamed of, but something that connected him to other people's pain and joy. William's relationship with Harry had evolved as they both grew into adulthood, but their bond remained unbreakable. Harry had developed his own personality and interests, but he still looked up to his big brother and valued William's advice and support. The promise William had made to protect Harry had been kept in ways both big and small over the years. William prepared to graduate from university. He thought about the future that lay ahead of him. He would serve in the military like his father and grandfather before him. He would gradually take on more royal duties and eventually marry and have children of his own. Someday he would be King of England and the Commonwealth. But William also knew that his most important role would always be as Diana's son. Everything he did would be influenced by the lessons she had taught him about kindness and service and putting other people's needs before his own. The love she had given him in their brief time together would guide him for the rest of his life. William's University. Graduation was attended by his father and stepmother Camilla, who had married Prince Charles a few years earlier. William had learned to accept Camilla as part of their family, while never forgetting that Diana would always be his mother. He understood that love didn't have to be limited or exclusive at the graduation ceremony. William looked out at the crowd and thought about how proud his mother would be of the education he had received and the man he had become. He had kept his promise to make her proud through his dedication to his studies and his commitment to serving others. The night before leaving St. Andrews, William took one final walk around the campus where he had spent 4 important years of his life. He thought about all the experiences that had shaped him and all the people who had influenced his growth. He felt grateful for the opportunity to have lived as a normal student for a while, writing his final university entry. In his journal to his mother, William reflected on the journey from the scared 10-year-old boy to the confident young man he had become. He thanked her for the foundation of love and values she had given him. He promised her that he would continue to grow and serve and make choices that would honor her memory. William also wrote about his hopes for the future. He wanted to marry Kate and have children who would know about their grandmother Diana through stories and photographs and the values she had passed down to their father. He wanted to continue her charitable work while also developing his own causes and interests. Most importantly, William promised his mother that he would never forget the lessons learned from those secret tears he had cried as a child. He would remember that true strength came from allowing yourself to feel deeply and care about others. He would use his position and privilege to help people who were struggling just like his family had struggled after losing her. As William closed his journal for the last time as a university student, he felt his mother's presence surrounding him. With love and pride, the boy who had once felt so alone and scared had grown into a man who understood that love never dies, and that the people we lose continue to guide us through the values and memories they leave behind. The secret tears had become a source of strength. The promise to protect Harry had taught him about responsibility and sacrifice. The journey through grief had given him compassion and wisdom. William was ready to step into his adult life carrying his mother's love with him always and using everything she had taught him to serve the world with dignity and grace. Diana's greatest legacy was not her royal title or her charitable work, but the two sons she had raised to be kind and strong and dedicated to helping others. The secret tears that had once seemed like a sign of weakness had actually been the beginning of everything beautiful that William would become in honor of his mother's memory and love.